yeah, me again. This time, same video, but for Mythic Plus. Now, Mythic Plus is a wild thing now. Not because anything major has changed, but because there is a significant power shift. Again, same thing as Raid. If you haven't seen that video, we aren't using Master Assassin much anymore. And Shadow Dance is gone. So because of that, we have a couple of changes. Now, Mythic Plus is a weird one. Because while we don't use Master Assassin in single target, there is no real better way to put this point. This isn't very strong. Master Assassin still kind of does something, and there's not really much to do here. So this is the new bleed build that we have going on. And you'll notice it's basically the same, right? Nothing really's changed. The only thing is we are playing Echoing Reprimand again. Again, Subterfuge and this additional Vanish Charge suck real bad. They suck terribly bad. Carnage is 6 seconds now. Improved Growth is 6 seconds now. Iron Wire is 6 seconds now. That makes Subterfuge a useless point. That makes Soothing Darkness not great because we don't have Shadow Dance. And an additional Vanish Charge when we're already casting Vanish on cooldown doesn't make much sense. So even in Mythic Plus, this whole row is not playable. This whole chain of talents. And we're opting for Echoing Reprimand again because Cold Blood, not that impressive. Again, you can play Cold Blood if you really, really hate Echoing Reprimand, but it is going to be worse. And the not good. This sucks. So if you're going to play Echoing Reprimand, play it with Resounding Clarity and not Alrighty. Next up on the docket, we have a lot of builds. There's a lot of ways to play M+ now, which I think is healthy. And it depends on where you want to put your damage, right? I want to point out that all of these can be viable in certain situations, but they do shift damage around. So this is the most bleed-heavy version of the build. And you will see a lot of bleed-heavy builds, especially in lower keys, where you don't have to focus on Kingsbane as much. Kingsbane has received a pretty big nerf. So I would expect that bleed builds are going to be a little bit better than before, but they also lost Shadow Dance. So what happens is really up in the air. I don't really know. Now I do want to point out some other stuff here, like this one. This is the next step. You might recognize this as the hybrid build if you played in Dragonflight, except you can now take Bone Spike. Bone Spike is accessible because of some changes and how Doomblade is starting to be one of the better talents, especially in single target where we play it already. And the loss of Shadow Dance has sort of shuffled a lot of the power of the tree around. Bone Spike itself being turned into a passive also makes this very good. It also interacts with Carnage, which speeds up your openers, right? You cast 1 Rupture, it casts 3 Ruptures and 3 Bone Spikes, fills your combo points back up really good, really fast, really strong. So you can actually play something like this and be totally fine. If you don't want to play with Bone Spike, there is still the option of playing with the traditional hybrid version where you take Amplifying Poison. Now, this does feel a little weird because you're taking a point out of the bottom third of the tree and putting it into the middle third. And this is where it kind of gets weird because you could take Master Assassin, but where are you putting it? Right? Where are you putting this point? Like, this is the natural point that you would take away. You could put it into Poison Application. That would be okay, but not great. Twist the Knife is bad. Doomblade on its own, if you're not taking Bone Spike, no point really taking this. Systemic Failure, also bad. Vicious Venoms, also bad. You could take Dashing Scoundrel. This would be the pick if you would want more single target damage. But in AoE, this isn't really all that great. And so as an all-around option, you would still want to play Master Assassin. So just kind of a weird pick here, right? Weird things going on. I personally am a little excited to play this and see how this works out. I don't think Amplifying Poison is really all that great, but we'll see. We'll see, right? And then next up, of course, we do have still the classics. So this Cleave build is basically your full single target build, except it removes Amplifying Poison and takes Crimson Tempest instead, right? So this is sort of the single target heavy M+ build. You still take Zoldyck, you still take Blindside, all that fun stuff. This is something you'll see in really, really high keys, but in the highest of keys, and I don't recommend this, but I do have to include it, you have this build. This is essentially just a raid build that takes Carnage and Caustic Spatter and calls it a day. Now, if you're watching this video to see what Mythic Plus talents to play, this probably isn't applicable to you. There's only like 3 people in the world that are playing keys high enough on Assassination in order to justify playing this. But I promote experimentation. If you would like to play this, go for it. This is very heavily reliant on Kingsbane damage, on getting Envenom damage with Rapid Inject and Amplifying Poison, and getting Caustic Spatter damage. You will require targets to live through your cooldowns, or your damage will go into the dumpster, because it is so reliant on Deathmark and Kingsbane and Caustic Spatter. So if you aren't able to do keys high enough where targets survive your full cooldowns and then a little bit, I would not suggest this. It's just requires too much of a ramp time, it's too single target heavy, and Caustic Spatter carrying the entirety of your AoE is just not something that I can seriously recommend to the majority of the player base. That's why I've included this Crimson Tempest alternative. It's still a very similar build, but Crimson Tempest does do a lot for you in AoE. So I would suggest going something like this instead and taking Crimson Tempest. I think Crimson Tempest at this point, with all the nerfs and the changes, is a mandatory talent. Rotationally, it's still the same thing, except I do want to point out, if you are taking something like this with Bone Spike, you do have a 6-second window for your Carnage. Improved Garrote has a 6-second cooldown as well. It's not a cooldown duration. So what you can do is you can Garrote 3 times still, as before, but what you could do better is you could Garrote twice, getting to 6 combo points, Rupture twice, because the first one will then trigger the Bone Spikes, allowing you to Rupture again. That would fill your Scent of Blood. And then after those 2 Garrotes and your 2 Ruptures, you can choose to either Garrote more, because you still have a little bit of time remaining, so you can Garrote again, and then go into a Crimson Tempest, or you can just start Fan and Ivesing if that's all the targets you have, right? So that feels really smooth to me, right? Garrote, get to 6, Rupture, then all the Bone Spikes go off, you get another Rupture, and then you can Garrote, Crimson Tempest. That would be like a really heavy AoE pull, and I think that would work out great. You'd max out your Scent of Blood, you'd get your Crimson Tempest up, you'd Garrote like 12 targets. It's pretty good, pretty strong. If you don't have Bone Spike, like if you're playing the standard bleed build, you can, and I don't recommend this, but you can technically do something like this and still have that same gameplay. Now you won't be getting the extra combo points from Shrouded, so it'll be a little bit weird. You'd have to like Garrote, Rupture or something like that, right? But in general, this also still works. Same concept applies. However, if you're... Oh no, I messed it up. If you are playing the standard setup here, you can still Garrote, Rupture, Garrote, Rupture, or Garrote, Crimson Tempest, Garrote, Rupture, right? That all fits in that 6-second window. You could even go like Garrote, Rupture, Garrote, Rupture. That fills your 6 seconds, and then you just Fan and Ives, Crimson Tempest, and go. So rotationally, all still kind of similar concepts, all the same. You still get Crimson Tempest up, you still get your Garrotes up, still get your Ruptures up. Kingsbane and Caustic Spatter building together is all the same. Everything's the same. And Echoing Reprimand is just kind of the filler on cooldown that will help you get a couple of extra finishers off. But yeah, that's basically all there is to it. Same as always. Anyways, hope it helped. Have a good one. Bye.